Hello, this is Tim Willis from the Fabulous Ghettowood Studios, where we keep it simple. There'll be no flashbang effects, no fancy jump cuts, no gimmicks at all, because I'm about as non-gimmicky guy as you're going to find. And so today what we're going to look at is something that is a useful thing to start with when you're getting ready to build a funnel or a web page or any kind of project in ClickFunnels 2.0 or any other web page builder or funnel builder for that matter. And so let's take a look at creating a style guide for our project. So what we're looking at here is a project I'm working on for a future video, and it's just a simple opt-in page. But right now we're going to just be dealing with what we want to create before we get to actually building the page, or as we are building the page. And that is a style guide. I call this a style guide because I don't want to confuse people by calling it a style sheet, although you could do that. But the thing is that CSS, which is one of the codes that's used in coding web pages, and so we'll just call it a style guide. And in my case, all it is a notepad. You could put it on anything you want. I just find it easier to use a notepad. And what I've got here are the colors I'm using on the project, the text fonts I'm using on the project. And in this case, I've added the text I'm using on the project because it's just a very small project. Probably most larger projects I would use a separate notepad, or if I'm getting ad copy from the client, that will probably come on something like a Word document. And then I've got down here the URL to the page I'm referring to model this from. But all this does is kind of gives you a handy little reference guide you can keep going back to, instead of having to go back and say, well, what did I do this? I mean, in this case, like the colors is a good example. I got the colors from palettes in Adobe Color, which we'll do a video on later. And Adobe Color, I ended up using two different palettes. And so if I didn't copy this down on the style guide, then went off and did something else, then I'd have to come back and try to figure out what I used if I didn't have it all written down here. That's really all there is to the style guide. It's a handy little thing to have when you start a project, so you can have sort of this basic information about your colors and your fonts and any notes you need to make to remind yourself as you go along working on your project. So that is it for today, and this is Tim Willis with ClickFunnels and Click Designs, and I will talk to you folks later.